Swingers Guide DGMinsights studies examined swingers have much happier marriages and swingers' ages.
So I was re-editing an old videos I was doing. By old, I mean a couple months ago. And I did the research for the video, and the conclusions are different than I expected. And so I'm redoing it. I'm redoing this video. And so I want to read a couple quotes because these are studies. And so the good news is that if you're in a happy marriage, swinging makes marriage happier. And there's multiple studies that show that those in a that are happy in their marriage, it increases. The studies show it's between 80 and 90% of people were happier after they started to engage in the swinging lifestyle, and even 50% of those who reported to be very happy before swinging felt themselves to be happier after engaging in the lifestyle. So that's a comment that happy marriages are happier after getting into the lifestyle. So here's another study about consensual non-monogamy, and it was found in this study that it's generally between the ages of 30 and 69. Now, I would say that there's a catch to that. Many under 30 call it other things. They're not getting in contractual marriage. They're staying in open relationships by the larger numbers. So I think that study is a little misleading if you assume that it means that nobody's swinging under 30, because that's not true. Generally, they're just calling it other things, and they're not actually doing, or they may be, but generally they're not doing that as a lifestyle. So this one surprised me. So about 46% are over the age of 50. That surprised me. Between 50 and 70. And 54.1% are under the age of 50. Now that surprised me. So that means that my perception that a lot of couples over 50, for reasons of empty nest and their place in their life, is probably pretty accurate, and it shows in the numbers. So just slightly under 50% of the swingers are over 50, which is an interesting fact. So this is about swinging couples over the age of 50, and in this one survey, 1% had been in an open marriage. We know that that's higher than that. And so 29% someone open to the idea, 69% were morally opposed to an open relationship. Now the surprising part is almost 30% have either been in or not, or somewhat interested in an open marriage. That's an interesting number. So older Americans, growing more mature, have a really high number of interest in open relationships. So this is a list. I'm going to put a list real quick of things to think about when starting to swing. One is to rewrite your wedding vows for vows that include consensual non-monogamy, and also have an agreement about swinging, both what you want to see, not see, what you think are appropriate, what your rules are, and those things written down, and also acknowledge that it may change over time and that you can change them. The other thing is to what you're comfortable in. Now, some people, for a long time after Julia Roberts' movie came out, Pretty Woman, they would say kissing's too personal. Well, that's just an amateur thing to most swingers. They'll go, okay, so this and that's not personal. This act isn't personal, but kissing is. So that's kind of looked at as a newbie, which means new at it position. Discuss same-sex and straight sex. There are people who are completely appalled by same-gender sexual acts, and so you might want to have that fully discussed. And that may need to change over time too, depending on how comfortable you are in the lifestyle. And you need to talk about STDs, about protection, about how it works. Men need to discuss how it works for men, and how women need to discuss how it works for women. You might want to try multiple things and make sure that it works for you. and testing, and tell your individual doctors about wanting to be tested. I would not suggest that you tell them that you're a swinger, because then they put it in a computer system, and then you're going to have endless amounts of things about condoms and stuff. So you might want to just be careful about acknowledging bisexuality, homosexuality, or heterosexuality outside of marriage, or outside of your contracted relationship. You might want to be careful. That's all I'm saying. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, but you might want to be careful to use some common sense there. I see sexual orientation being listed by companies. I would strongly suggest you not give your sexual orientation. They say it's just so that they don't, I don't know what the excuses they use, but they shouldn't have it there. Orientation is a protected legal thing in a lot of states, and you might want to not answer that question. And if they try and force you, then put, I'm married, So, okay. Thank you. And remember, this is just advice. I'm not a professional. You may want to seek one, but you might want to think about these as common sense stuff. Swingers think of it as a hobby, as entertainment, as like if you were going to climb a mountain, you would have ropes, and you would check your ropes, and you would check where you're at and how you emotionally feel about climbing a mountain. If it's just a hobby, then it's just a hobby. It doesn't mean it's your sexual preference. It doesn't mean anything other than it's just sex for fun, or the friendship, naked friendship for fun. And that's another thing too, is just because you're a part of a group, somebody says, oh, you're in a swingers group. Well, yeah, it doesn't mean you're swinging. It doesn't mean it's not just a social group. To them, you don't have to admit that you actually have sex with people that aren't your relationship. And that can be useful advice if you're prepared to say, oh, no, those are just people we know. We have a right to be friends with anybody. And in fact, they're pretty much a freedom of association. It's guaranteed by two constitutional rights. So I would not admit to anybody that is what they call vanilla. And vanilla is a term that means somebody who's not a swinger. All of the ones that, with one exception maybe, but all of the ones that found out that my first wife and I were swingers had a positive reaction. And so they didn't turn to swinging. Some of them didn't, but some of them just said, that's not for us, but that's really cool. And they had a lot of questions, and it was a very positive thing. I've never had a negative thing, but you can imagine that it's going to happen. If you have any, please feel free to write us at the end of this video. There's a contact place. Thank you. You have a great day.